Welcome to Drinks in the Library, the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they are required. I'm your librarian host, Gigi Howard, and each episode I'll be interviewing a guest about a much-loved book that we will be pairing with a drink for you to enjoy along with us or consider for your next book club meetup. As always, stay curious and support your local library. Hi, Libration Nation. All right, we're talking this week about The Gunslinger. It's Stephen King. It's dark, twisted, fantasy, anti-hero. It's also the first book in his The Dark Tower series, following the journey of Roland Deschain. That's the last gunslinger. He travels the desolate and mysterious landscape in search of the enigmatic man in black. It's good versus evil, destiny, fantasy, all of these things. And I so loved talking about it this week with author Bill Blume. He knew he was determined to be a writer from a young age, often taking the lead in crafting adventures during childhood games in South Carolina. And then in Richmond, he and his wife Sherry have become so engaged in the local writing community, especially at James River Writers, where Bill served on the board and continued to engage with fellow writers and industry professionals. He's the author of several books. You can find them all on his website, billblume.net. And also he has an upcoming novel, To Hell and Back, which is coming out January 20th, 2026. Bill and I had such a fun conversation. We enjoyed a Dark and Stormy. It is dark and spicy, just like our protagonist. Before we get started, just a reminder, if you're enjoying the show, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Threads or Instagram. Tell a friend about Drinks in the Library this week. Also, if you buy merch, which I highly recommend you do, all of that money goes back to the podcast, paying for things like the software, hardware that I need to actually get this done. All right, without further ado, let's get to it. I've just been feeling like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, I'm recording in person. Like, maybe this will give me a little bit more of a bump.
Oddly enough, I know, from a moderator standpoint for JRW, for James River Writers, I've moderated so many panels. When we went through the pandemic and we were doing Zoom panels, it was more stressful for me.
Yeah.
Because it was like, everyone can see me at that point.
Yeah.
And it's like usually when the person is answering, I know the audience is directed towards them. And so it's like I can be glancing at my notes while I'm trying to listen and looking at stuff. But I'm like, in a Zoom thing, it almost looks like I'm not paying attention. I'm just like, oh my God. And so it was stressful.
I also get nervous with Zoom video calls because I find sometimes I feel like I'm looking and then I tend to blush. And so looking at myself will make the blush come on stronger. And I'm like, am I red? Am I turning red? Oh no. And then my body is, oh, now we're going red. Yeah. So anyhow, but yeah, I like in person. So I'm so glad you're here with me today, Bill. This is fun. This is great.
Thank you.
So I guess let's jump into it. So the book, The Gunslinger.
I know this is a weird pick for a favorite book.
I'm excited. It's iconic, right? It's so iconic. So where were you when you picked this book up?
It was handed to me by my future wife.
Aww.
And that's actually, I would be lying if I did not admit that part of the reason this is a favorite book is because of the sentimental attachment I have to it. We met in high school. And Sherry, the first book she ever lent to me and recommended was Stephen King's The Gunslinger. And so that's why I read it, because believe me, I was so straight-laced and ridiculously naive as a teenager. My wife was convinced I lived in a Leave It to Beaver household where it's like my mom probably had cookies waiting for me when I got home. This was not the case. But I did look right out of it because it's like I was still wearing, plaid shirts and stuff that my mom was buying for me and crap. And oh my God. Yeah. And so Sherry enjoyed that a lot. She was in drama club and stuff. And so she enjoyed finding ways to shock me. Yeah. She has said that was not why she recommended the book. She honestly thought I would get a kick out of it. And she was right. I did. It was So freaking weird. I had
Uh,
never read anything like that.
so when you picked it up, because this is started off as a novella, right, in the magazine. Hang on, I have it written down. The magazine of fantasy and science fiction,
Yeah.
and then it kind of merged into it. So you picked it up when it was already a book.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And in fact, the laugh about the book that I read, the one she lent me, actually belonged to her previous boyfriend.
Sherry.
She never gave him the book back.
Good.
Oh my God. I can't tell you how many times I wish we still had that copy of the book just because now it would be hilarious to be able to. Oh my God. But yeah, I like to joke. I got the girl and I got the book.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Aw,
that's
no.
part of why I also put it. I knew this would be fun to talk about because yeah, it's just
Aw.
that is a part of our history that I love so much, and I've totally derailed myself. But yeah, so that's how it ended up on my radar. I
Okay.
would have I never would have touched that book without Sherry. Like I said, my household was so conservative Christian value. It's like
Mhm.
Stephen King was like the equivalent of Satan. So yeah, the odds of me picking that book up on my own were
Okay.
so thin it's laughable.
Did your parents find out at the time?
My parents were divorced at that point,
Okay.
and my mom, I imagine she did find out at some point. Yeah, she was not my wife's biggest fan ever. But I'm like, there's a small part of me that takes pride in the fact I was like, my marriage lasted longer. Thank you very much. I know that's terrible to say, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we're here for the truth.
to be fair though, my parents did remarry. It was a good thing when they did.
Yeah.
They got it right the second time around.
Good.
I definitely want to give them props for that. So yeah, I was very
Yeah.
proud of them. Yeah, I'm sure my mom was very concerned by that. She didn't like a lot of the stuff I wrote. She felt it was too dark, even
Oh,
before
okay.
King got into the mix.
So what were you writing about back then?
Oh my God, I was really trying to write a comic book as a novel, which was it was absolute garbage. It was absolute garbage looking back on it. But I think that was one of those things I was determined I was going to find a way to write it and make it work.
Mhm.
When the first time I tried to write a young adult novel was because Sherry had unearthed that manuscript in one of her cleaning fits in our house. And she was distracted by it, reading through it. And she was like, you should try to turn this into a young adult book. Because that was back when young adult was just getting really taken off.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, but there's so much Drek in that. And she was like, but as often Sherry is, she was right. And so I was like, yeah, I started kicking around. I did write a manuscript for a novel. That one also should never see the light of day. However, it did eventually pay off the third time around. A book I had come out last in 2024, The Dragon Spy. In many ways, that was born out of both those previous efforts.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So are you an Anne Lamott fan? Shitty First Draft?
No, I'm actually quite the opposite.
Oh, okay. Tell me about that.
In fact, yeah, my thing is the way I write is not a way I recommend to people getting started
Okay.
because I really belabor the first draft.
Okay.
And I know for a lot of people that's dangerous because it usually is going to stall you and you're never going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But I do typically go through the first draft trying to get it as perfect as I can. The reason I'm able to finish it is because I'm just really stubborn.
Okay.
And I am determined I will finish it, and I
Uh-huh.
do. It doesn't always pay off with a polished manuscript, but my batting average is actually pretty good with that. There is at least one or two manuscripts I've got sitting around right now that I'm like, yeah, I got to go back and fix those. Those are just did not turn out right.
Oh, I think that's so interesting to think about is like how you do something you hate. Like maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. So
Oh,
stop.
you're right.
Yeah, I don't want to offend you. But I did this. I hate this. I did this. I hate this. And then the third time is, oh, that's why I did that.
Yeah, in fact, that third time around with Dragon Spy, the main character of that book, she was actually a supporting character in the second attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God that version of her did not make it into print.
Okay.
Because that would have been an absolute disservice to that character.
Okay.
Lena is a Chinese American
Mhm.
teenager, and she the way I wrote her in the first attempt, it just would have been awful. I didn't have the life experience. I didn't have enough influence from people who could better inform me about her heritage and how I should be writing
Mm.
her. And thankfully, by the time Dragon Spy rolled around, I had reached a point to where I could write her in a more authentic way and also approach her from the standpoint of, okay, I can write this with her, but I can't write that.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't try to write that. Would be a good way to put it.
Okay. All right. So talking about going back to you and Sherry reading The Gunslinger for the first time.
Oh.
What's The Gunslinger about?
The Gunslinger is about a fellow named Roland Deschain.
Mhm.
And Roland is on this quest to reach the Dark Tower. He is obsessed with getting to the Dark Tower. And he is essentially a knight, but he's more like Clint Eastwood, Wild West kind of guy. No swords, it's guns. And he's walking through this desert at the start of the book, trying to get this guy who's the Man in Black, and you're slowly introduced into why the Man in Black is being pursued by Roland, and how that character was responsible for a lot of the things that destroyed Roland's livelihood, the knighthood, his family, and it's the start of this epic quest. The reason the Gunslinger is kind of divisive, I think, for a lot of readers is that you mentioned earlier, it's written in segments.
Mhm.
It was originally published as novelettes.
Mm-hmm.
And even together, assembled in the 5 parts, it does not tell an entire story. It really is probably the most unnovel of the 7 novels in the Dark Tower series. And so for a lot of people, they don't enjoy it, but I love it because I feel like it does manage to have enough of an arc where you're just like, yeah, I need the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you be open to reading the opening few lines of the book? Because it's kind of iconic, right?
Oh, yeah. In fact, yeah, I'm happy to do that because, in fact, I prepared for that. Let's see. I'll tell you what. Let me go for the book. Hold
Okay.
on. Chapter 1. The Man in Black fled across the desert, and the Gunslinger followed. The desert was the apotheosis of all deserts, huge, standing to the sky for what looked like eternity in all directions. It was white and blinding and waterless, and without feature save for the faint, cloudy haze of the mountains, which sketched themselves on the horizon, and the devil grass, which brought sweet dreams, nightmares, death. An occasional tombstone sign pointed the way for once the drifted track that cut its way through the thick crust of alkali had been a highway. Coaches and bucos had followed it. The world had moved on since then. The world had emptied.
So is the world our world, or is this sort of a fantasy, you think?
The funny thing is, even King wasn't sure when he started.
Sure.
He has admitted that when he started it, it was very much our world.
Mhm.
And there were, in the original version of the book, there are a lot of heavy references to our world in it. There was a revision done early this century, and he purposely removed a lot of that.
Okay.
Because he realized that, no, it wasn't our world. It was its own reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to come in. So it's sort of, would you say it's more fantasy or?
It's very fantasy.
It's very fantasy.
It's got an apocalyptic fiction feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this incredibly strange blend of genre because, yes, it has that Wild West motif to it, but it's so much more about the dark fantasy element because there's a lot of magic. Like at one point, Roland runs a bullet across his fingers to hypnotize this young boy in order to help the boy, be able to figure out and remember his backstory. That's Jake.
Yes. I want to talk about Jake a little bit, but then I guess first we may need to explain like Roland's personality. Sort of an anti-hero.
Oh,
maybe?
he is he is the epitome of an anti-hero.
Okay.
Although it's humorous because I think if there's a lot of equating what King did with the revisions to what George Lucas did to the original Star Wars with Han Solo.
Oh, okay.
So many fans got bent about the Greedo scene in the cantina where it was changed to where Han Solo did not just shoot Greedo, and the Greedo actually, in the new version, does shoot, and he shoots back.
Mm-hmm.
There is a scene in the first act of The Gunslinger where Roland wipes out an entire town of people. He takes them out. And one of them is a woman he had been sleeping with. He'd been having a romantic affair with her.
Yeah.
And in the original version, she's being held captive by the town, and they're using her as a human shield. In that version, he shoots her to eliminate her being a human shield. He flat
Wow.
out kills her and then takes out the rest of the town.
Wow.
In the updated version,
Okay.
there's a thing where a trap that's been set by the Man in Black. He tricks her into saying this word that causes this guy that the Man in Black has brought back from the dead, and he reveals something that completely fractures her mind, and she's basically begging for Roland to kill her at that point to put her out of her misery.
Yeah.
And so it kind of was to try and make him less awful. But it's okay. Sure thing.
Okay, as someone who you read the original and then the new one, right?
Yeah.
How did you feel about it?
Honestly, the funny thing is when I read the new one, it had been so long, I had forgotten it wasn't like that.
Okay.
And it was funny to realize that. It was only after I started digging around and doing some research that I realized, oh, okay, there were changes made. And so it's like, yeah, there was one time I went on a deep dive looking at, you can find it online. There's lots of forums that have posted stuff on this and all the things that changed. And a lot of it was because not to soften Roland, but there were things that he wanted to do to make it consistent with the books that followed. What we were talking about a moment ago about the fact that it's not technically our world, but when it started, when he first was writing it and starting to try and figure out what he was doing, it was at that point our world to a degree.
Okay. Weird question.
Yeah.
Do we know where King was with his recreational drug use at the original writing?
Oh, I gotta think there were some drugs in there. My God, that is an acid trip of a book.
Okay.
Let me tell you, no doubt about it. I think it's hilarious that it inspired me to write a book of my own that is just as much of an acid trip, but I was stone cold sober when I wrote mine. But yeah, I mean, it's like there's some stuff in there. You're just like. And I will admit, look, there was some stuff in it on the reread where I was just kind of, I can't believe I was reading this in high school. I mean, there was some stuff in there that's just, wow, not good. And content-wise, and yeah, it was just kind of shocking to realize that had been in there and I had forgotten about it. Because it had been so long. Yeah.
All right, so Roland really is the anti.
Oh yeah, like I said, he is the epitome of anti-heroes.
Did they explain how he got to be this way? Is there a point where you sort of understand?
Yeah, and in fact, this is actually one of those other divisive elements about the series. I feel like within the book itself, it kind of does explain that because you get a little bit of his backstory and kind of how his family's rule was destroyed. You find out how he made his ascension to knighthood prior to that fall. And it's told in a flashback that he's telling Jake, the young boy who ends up going along with him on the journey. And so you get that there. Now, fourth book in the series, Wizard and Glass is almost entirely flashback. And it's essentially you getting to see Roland back in his heyday doing what he does, and you get to find out how his mom died, for example. You find out how the love of his life died. You find out about what happened to his friends, a little bit more detail there. And so the reason I say it's kind of divisive is because that book was almost all flashback. For those of us who were more interested in just getting to the Dark Tower and wanting to get there, it was like, I feel like we covered all this in the first book. I didn't need an entire book going into greater detail.
Okay.
My wife loves that book.
Okay.
We are a divided marriage over that book because she thought that was the best. She loved getting to see it on,
the relationships and stuff like that.
Getting to see it
history?
elaborated on more
Okay.
and kind of get more insights. Yeah. And for me, I was like, I just feel like this is delaying getting to where we want to go. But at the same time, I also wonder now if I were to reread that book now, would I feel differently? I would, even because it's now been about 20 years since I read it.
Yeah. You need to reread it.
Yeah, probably is time. But there's so many other books.
I know. I'm constantly struggling. I was up at 3 a.m. this morning and I was like, all right, what am I going to do? I'm just laying here and I picked up the book and I'm just getting through it. But anyway, that's a whole side story. Sorry. Hang on. Do you want to talk about the drink real quick?
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Dark and Stormies. Oh my gosh. Love Dark and Stormies. Oh my God. Yeah. This is like one of my vices. just because I like the fact it's a spicy drink.
Mm-hmm. It's got the ginger beer. And I told you right before we started recording that I unknowingly got like the extra spicy ginger beer. I don't think it's
Oh,
two, but
it's
it's got a
good.
little bit of a kick or a little bite to it, I would say. And it's good for the gunslinger, you know. He's dark and
Oh,
stormy and spicy.
absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say that all three definitely describe Roland to a T. And
Uh-huh.
it's also a perfect drink for winter.
Yeah. I know, and it's so cold, and it's for the listener, we're about to go into maybe a little mini snowstorm
Oh,
here in the Richmond area. Mini, I don't think it'll be that bad.
hope so.
Not tonight, though. You'll get home safe and sound, and we'll see what tomorrow happens. But yeah, it's perfect. So yeah, I love it dark and stormy, even with the spicy ginger beer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I like having, I don't know if you know why I have the drinks, but I feel like it adds a little bit of extra element, puts people at ease.
Oh, yeah.
It's like an incentive to come over and chat. And
Yeah, I was gonna say I love being able to have drinks with fellow writers and stuff.
hmm
There's a group of friends I have from James River Writers that we go twice a year to a writers retreat called the Porches, and oh dear Lord, we drink a lot of alcohol over there. We there's a lot of wine I consume. And every now and then we'll get fancy with some mixed drinks. There was one time I did go up there and I took all the ingredients for making Dark and Stormy, so I had quite a few while I was up there.
Oh, and I think I want to tell you. So I followed you on social media because I went through all of the James River writers, people that were, I guess, speaking at the conference this last year. And that's how you and I got connected. So that's how
Yeah.
I found you, is through James River Writers.
I've met so many people through the Richmond community, but honestly, just writing in general, I've been involved with James River Writers since the very first conference. I wasn't behind the scenes then. Sherry and I went to the first one as attendees, and we ended up the second year. We were like, we're not going to be able to afford to do it, so we ended up volunteering.
Okay.
And so I've been to every one of the conferences.
That's awesome.
I've been working at almost all of them. I've been one of their go-to moderators for panels, which I actually really enjoy
Mm-hmm.
because it broadened my reading a lot.
Yeah.
Part of the reason I got into young adult books was because of that.
Okay.
Maggie Stiefvater's Shiver was one of the earliest I read.
Yeah.
And oh man, love that book.
Yeah.
It was great.
It's a good book. I've read some of her stuff too. Yeah.
She does good stuff. And yeah, I was to say also a Virginia author.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I loved the fact that it forces me to get out of my comfort zone as a reader. I've had panels where it's like sometimes the book that I least expect to be the one I'll enjoy the most ends up being that. There was a panel on world building I did, and among the genres that were in there, there was epic fantasy, there was urban fantasy, there was thriller, and there was romance. The romance book was my favorite out of all of them. Just so well written, so good. She knew her business, and you could just tell by the way it was written. And yeah, I mean, not shocking because romance writers typically know their business better than any other genre in the market.
Yeah. It's like the most popular selling genre, read genre right now.
Most popular, and it's also a matter of when it comes to the market, when it comes to providing the readers what they're expecting and what they want. The romance writers know their business. They are good about crafting the book in a way. I mean, there's just so much good writing to be found in the romance market because they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they know they are dealing with a voracious readership who has high expectations.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I knew very little about romance until I started getting involved with James of Writers. And yeah, that definitely was one of those big wake-up calls for me because I did not know much about romance at all prior to getting involved with JRW. And yeah, romance and erotica in general, I think, are definitely markets where the writers are some of the savviest you will find.
Yeah.
There is a skill to writing a sex scene
Uh-huh.
that actually entertains and moves the plot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, man. The ones who can do that's skill.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of thought to go in, like you're saying, to move the plot, to have the sex, but then also be telling the story as well.
And the funny thing is, we had one of my favorite panels that I was not a moderator on, but I was a speaker at one of the previous James River Writers conferences was about action scenes.
Mm-hmm.
One of the speakers was an erotica author, a romance author, and
Okay.
and the reason she was on there was because of the sex scenes.
Okay.
Sex scenes and action fight scenes both suffer from the same potential issue in the story, which is that if they're written poorly, written as this person does this and this person does that, it's very dull, it's very boring, and it makes it to where it just leaves you going, oh dear God, can I please get through this scene to get back to the story?
Right.
But the really skilled writers find ways to make those moments move the plot and add to the tension of the story. That's why I'm like, yeah, it's romance authors. That's where they earn their paycheck, because they definitely are good about being able to make that something that actually enhances the story. And I've tried to, that for me, with a lot of my action scenes, I've worked very hard to try and be that as well with what I write.
Yeah. Learn from others, and
Yeah.
it's so interesting. I'm going just back to it. I've become just like a fan of James River writers, and I connected with Catherine.
Yep.
And she's wonderful and so kind and just fun and everything. So it's been great. And then I feel like I'm progressing from here. And I'm not a writer, right? I'm just writer adjacent. I'm a friend.
Catherine is actually one of my best friends.
Is she?
Oh yeah, Catherine was also at the first conference,
Uh-huh.
and so we've known each other for more than 2 decades now.
Really?
She and Phil Hilliker, who was an employee for James River Writers for a short while. He is also a writer. He's an artist.
Is he Angie Hilliker's husband?
Yes.
She's coming on in 2 weeks.
Oh, great! Oh my God, yeah, they are an amazing couple.
Oh, great!
But yeah, Phil and Catherine are my two main beta readers.
Oh, wow!
And Phil is also my cover artist.
Wow!
For a lot of my books.
Okay, I'm just like getting in with all your best friends.
You really are. But yeah, so they were. I mean, James River Writers is one of the main reasons Sherry and I are still in Richmond. We moved here back in '98, and James River Writers started. The first conference was in 2003, and we did have there was a very brief moment where we were debating on potentially moving back to South Carolina. And one of the reasons we stayed was because we were like, if we were to go back to Columbia, we were going to lose James River Writers. We would have to build it there to have it. And we were just like, that's stupid.
Right. You've got it here. Yeah. Side note, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, so not too far from Columbia. Yeah.
Not far at all. That's a day trip easy.
Yeah. So anyway, not South Carolina, but Charlotte's like almost on the border. So
Richmond's like that. It's weird how it's like this midpoint for people coming from like New York and then coming from down south. For some reason, we just really draw people along the coast to us.
It's just close enough. Of course, my parents listen to this, and I'm like, it's just close enough. It's not too far. And they're like, well, not Charlotte. But anyway, I'm only 5 hours away. But yeah, it's.
Oh, I've dealt with a lot of grief for that. My children were the first Blumes born out of South Carolina in many generations.
Okay.
And my parents never forgave me for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in South Carolina, grew up there, and ended up here. So yeah,
Richmond's great, and James River Writers is also great.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's an incredible organization, and we're just very fortunate to have it here.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad to be adjacent, a friend of James River Writers.
Glad to have you.
Hold on. So, King, getting back to the book, I did want to ask you, how big of a fan are you of Stephen King?
Not that big.
Oh, okay. I love it.
I'll be honest.
Okay.
Outside of the Dark Tower series, I have read very little of King's work.
Okay.
I only recently, in the past decade, started to explore a couple of other books of his. Like I finally read Salem's Lot, which I had always been curious about, but I just never had gotten around to. I'm trying to think. I did try to read some King books outside of Dark Tower when I was younger, when I first was into the Dark Tower series, and everyone was waiting for the next book. And like I remember I read Needful Things, and that was not for me. I did not need it.
Is Sherry a King fan? That's another question. No? Okay.
Not really. I mean,
Curious.
No. It's, outside of the Dark Tower series, we're not really that invested. She's read The Stand, which I feel like I've kind of hurt my cred a little bit by admitting I have not read The Stand.
Okay. I haven't read it either.
Yeah. One day, it's one of those, I'm like, one day I want to, but I'm just like, oh my God, it's such a big book.
Yeah, I know. That's a hold up on it too, for sure. Have you read his autobiography on writing?
No.
I recommend that one.
I did start it.
Okay.
I did start it, and I did not get very far.
Okay. No pressure. But I think I started and stopped it too, and then came back to it, and then loved it. And also talking about genre, I guess, a little bit.
No,
So,
genre-wise, yeah, I love fantasy, always
Mhm.
have. I mean, my parents really kind of screwed up because when I was 4, they took me to see Star Wars when it originally came out. I'm sure they regretted that because that just shaped the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love fantasy, always have. That and comic books. Part of the reason I was trying to write a comic book novel out the gate back in high school was because I wanted to write comic books. And I had met a comic book writer who he told me about this terror story about how he had lost the comic book he had created to the artist. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I don't want that to ever happen. So I was like, maybe I should just write a book. The bad thing was I was not actually a very good reader for novels back then. I was so huge into comic books. And it wasn't until a little more than a decade ago, I started to realize that I was doing myself a disservice by not recognizing that I actually was a good reader and that the comic books definitely did count. And there were things I did learn from them.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, there was character development, there's pacing, dialogue. Oh my God,
Yes.
dialogue carries so much weight in a comic book.
Yeah.
And it's just, I did not recognize how much of that actually did help start me on my journey to be a writer, but it definitely left some gaps. Which it took a lot of reading and a lot of time to make up for that.
When was this? How old were you when this was happening?
This was probably around, 16, 17.
Okay.
Because I was definitely able to drive at that point. I was in high school, but I was starting to try and write comic books even earlier than that.
Okay.
I had like entire series mapped out for like hundreds of issues that will never see the light of day. But it's like I had spiral notebooks that were filled with that, with drawings of characters that I had created, and those drawings actually were part of how my wife and I ended up getting married.
Oh,
We were in a class together in high school. It was a television magazine.
yeah? Okay.
And I was just happened to be drawing a character. It actually wasn't one of the characters in the comic book. I was drawing a character from an anime I had watched growing up called Battle of the Planets, better known as Gotcha Man. And I was drawing that, and Sherry happened to be walking by the desk as I was drawing it. She was like, oh my God, this guy is as weird as I am. I'm not the only one who lives in my head like this.
Yeah.
And so we ended up actually talking. And it didn't take long before the entire class was conspiring to get us together.
Aww.
Yeah. It was funny because we did not realize we were a power couple at our high school until after high school, which is really annoying. It's like we had all that we could have taken advantage of.
Yeah, you had a lot of clout.
We had no clue. No clue.
I mean, it's obviously worked out just fine.
Oh, it did. Yes. Yeah, my God, yeah. It was genre-wise, though. Yeah, kind of jumping back. Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot. There's so many different genres I've gotten to where I enjoy now, and it's like I'm enjoying reading more widely, more diversely. I'm always looking for something that can find something different with an old idea. Part of why writers like Melinda Lowe, N.K. Jemisin are among my favorites. Erin Bowman is another one. I love her work. All three of those, they're like my auto-buy authors.
Okay.
Without question. It was when I was picking a book for this, it was tough. But I was like, given the history for me and Sherry with Gunslinger, I was like, that just made me, I knew it'd be fun to talk about it.
I'm glad you did. Definitely. Yes. And you're welcome to come back and we can talk about them as well.
Oh my gosh. I can honestly say the trilogy that N.K. Jemisin won the Hugos for all 3 books, the Broken Earth trilogy.
Yeah.
That last book, oh God, wept hugged the book after I finished reading it.
Oh,
Love that series
yeah.
so much. She is so good. And I those are the authors I was mentioning. For me, the reasons I love them is they're the kind of writers where it's like every time they're doing something new, you can tell they're trying to do something to stretch themselves. They're not resting on their laurels
Mhm.
at all. And it's just one of the things I love about those authors. And it's one of the things I want to be an author like that. And
Right.
so it's fun to watch how these people who are so good at their craft do it.
Mhm. Yeah. And let's talk about your writing a little bit. When did you first start writing?
I started writing in high school,
Mhm.
and I did actually write a kind of a comic book miniseries. That was my first time trying to write. That was like seventh
Were
grade.
you drawing as well or just doing the comic book? Okay.
Really, just the writing. My drawing's not that good.
Okay.
No, I mean, it was not that good. Yeah, I didn't have that skill set.
I don't either, so
I wish. It wasn't until middle of high school that I started to try and write a novel, and
Mm,
it was a mess of ideas. Like I said, I was mainly trying to write a superhero novel. It wasn't until probably much later. I don't think it was until probably shortly before I went to James Earl Writers that I was starting to get into the idea of writing something that was not comic book-ish.
mhm.
But still more in the action adventure kind of thing, trying to find a different twist with stories. I had an espionage story that involved demons. Yeah, it's one of those that also should probably never see the light of day. Honestly, my wife and I wrote a manuscript together that we're going to revisit very soon.
Okay.
We wrote an entire epic fantasy novel that was inspired by these characters we would role play online in chat rooms back on AOL, to give you an idea of how far back that went.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
also an AOL user.
It was actually a lot of fun because it was like improvisational writing because you
Mhm.
would be having to bounce off each other. I don't know that I was very good at it because I'm too controlling of the narrative. And yeah, I realized that about myself very quickly. I was
How
like,
are you at yes-anding? Are
not
you
good.
Oh.
Although Sherry and I, in fact, we wrote two manuscripts together. The first one, that one was not successful. The second one was. The first one was not a waste, though. That was us figuring out how to do it. So
Mhm.
we like had character profiles. We had map. We did have a map. Not a
Mhm.
very good one, but it was a map.
Mhm.
We made sure we'd got all the details down, the hair color, height, all the things we might possibly need. We had a timeline that led up to the events of the book, all sorts of things. And we needed it because otherwise we wouldn't be able to be operating on the same page.
Right.
And we also figured out that our trick was if we ended up dividing up characters, we had characters that knew I could write properly, and there were characters she could write properly for the story. And so if it was a scene that only had characters of mine, I could write that scene and I didn't need to have Sherry there for it. Obviously, she'd go through it afterwards and then she'd clean it up. And we each had veto power.
Okay.
So that if we read the scene and we went, this is not working, we could say so. There was this chapter I wrote 5 times and she vetoed every one of those attempts. Oh my God. It was brutal. And I mean, she was right every time. And so it worked both ways to where what was fun though is when we were writing a scene where we had characters overlapping.
Mm.
And we would sit on the sofa and we would pass the laptop back and forth. And obviously, whoever the character's who was POV for the scene, the point of view for the scene, that meant whoever was POV. If the POV character was say mine, that would put most of the weight on me. But at the same time, it was kind of fun. Every now and then we would have a scene, we'd be writing it, and I knew it was something I was going to throw in there that she didn't know was coming just because I was waiting and I was excited to see what her reaction would be.
Mhm.
And she did it to me too. It was fun.
Mhm.
So even though we had a map for what we were trying to do, we could surprise each other like that within the course of writing it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I've spoken with an author, this relationship that you and Sherry have, where you are able to collaborate. And obviously, she's your best friend, she's your partner. And so, if it's,
Oh, there were also some bad moments. Oh
we
my
know.
God. One of the worst fights of our marriage was over this one chapter in the book where the characters get ready to go underground after these monsters.
Uh-huh.
And I told her, I was like, all right, so this is Michael's plan. And Michael was one of my characters. And I'm like, they're going to do this and they're going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And Sherry's like, no, Isabel would never go along with that. And we went back and forth for an hour over this. And it got heated. And finally, at one point, she even retreated to the bathroom.
Oh,
And I was just like,
no.
she comes out and I'm like, look, all I'm saying is that this is Michael's plan. I don't expect Isabel to go along with it. At which point, Sherry just goes, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "No, it can't be that simple." No, but it was. Yeah, we moved on.
Well, good. Pick your battles, right?
Oh my god! I mean, it was one of the. It was fun because it was like that book. The characters in it, the book, it was like a third child for us.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And so yeah, we're finally going to revisit the book. We were not successful in getting an agent with it back when we were trying, and we're going to get the thing done, and we're going to indie publish that. But we were just this couple weekends ago, we were in the car driving back from an event, and we were kicking around the things we could do differently with the story that would make it even better. Because there are elements to it that now that we're older, we're looking back at it and going, yeah, that hasn't aged well. We should get rid of that.
When you have the opportunity to.
Right.
Now.
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll know the revisions, but the readers will not.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're excited to get back into it, but we got to finish the things we're writing now individually.
Right. Yeah. You've got a lot going on. I did want to ask you before, is there anything about the Gunslinger in particular that you really wanted to make sure we got to that we haven't gotten to yet?
I will shamelessly mention my novel, West of Apocalypse.
Okay.
One of the reasons I reread that book, and I've reread The Gunslinger more than any other book in my life. And one of the times I reread it was back in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in preparation for writing West of Apocalypse.
Okay.
The idea was I wanted to write something that was kind of in that vein, where it was also a very structured series of acts. You mentioned earlier, again, about the fact that it essentially was originally published as 5 separate novelettes and then put together for the novel. I was like, in between projects, I was frustrated, and I was like, I want to do something that I could write really quickly. I was like, I could do short stories real quickly. I want to do like a series of 6 novelettes. And I'm going to have each one's going to roughly stand on their own. And it's going to tell a cohesive story, though, if you read the entire set. And I was going to originally release them separately as ebooks. The average novelette roughly is about 15,000 words. Okay. Do the math. That's 90,000 words. I was writing a novel.
Yes, that is a novel.
Yeah, past Bill was being stupid. However, it was fun. The idea was, I was like, all right, so what I want to do is I was going to say, I'm going to take King's story. I'm going to start a character off in a similar place, but I'm going to make the main character a young woman. We're going to hold on to the Wild West motif, and we're going to make it with sword fighting.
Okay.
And it was just kind of like a thought experiment. I had mapped out roughly what was going to happen in each novelette, but for the most part, there was a lot of discovery writing. In fact, after the second act of the book, most of what I had mapped out got completely jettisoned.
Okay.
Just because so much crazy stuff happened in the second act of the book, especially the Fate, this character that is one of the weirdest things I've ever created, and people really react to when they come across her. When I got done with that, I was like, everything I'd planned in acts 3 through 6 were pretty much your standard fantasy fare, and I was like, yeah, no reader's going to hang in for that after this. Which was a blessing, because at that point, it was like, I was just going for I was experimenting. I was like, how far can I stretch the setting and still hold on to that Wild West motif? Mm-hmm. And so it actually does end up being a book that is both dark fantasy and sci-fi, because there's more of a sci-fi element to it as you get deeper into the story. There's even references to the Big Bang, the Big Crunch.
Okay.
There's references to all sorts of astrological phenomena in it. Yeah. And so, yeah, there is a lot of science in the last act of that book that gets brought up, because it all ties into what's happening in Alien's galaxy. And so it was fun to revisit the ideas that King had done, and to realize it was a big influence on me when I read his book back in the day. And I was trying to mimic structure that he'd used in the Dark Tower books. And I really had no clue what I was doing at that point. Mm-hmm. But by the time I revisited it in 2017, I had grown enough as a writer to where I could finally do something that was actually in that vein and do it well and make it my own. Okay. That was the big thing. By that point, I had evolved enough.
Okay. Good. Good for you for just keep trying.
Yeah. Stubbornness.
You mentioned that. Oh. Talking about the Gunslinger a little bit.
Yeah.
Who would you recommend this story for? Obviously, someone wanting to find their life partner, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird way to find your spouse, that's for sure. But I think it's one of those things that if you've reached a point as a reader in fantasy where you've gotten kind of so immersed in the standard stuff that you really want to try and stretch things a little bit, stretch your imagination away. And this is one of those things I tell people about West of Apocalypse. That was a book I wrote to stretch the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Gunslinger does. If you're ready to see just how far and how different fantasy can go, that's a great book to go into, because you'll realize that it plays with structure, it plays with the voice a little bit, and it kind of goes against a lot of what your expectations are for a fantasy novel.
Okay.
And that's so I would say, yeah, if a lot of what you're reading has been more like Tolkien, and you really haven't gone beyond a lot of the stuff that's in that vein, the Wheel of Time and that kind of stuff, where it's still, even though it may be dressed a little differently, it's still your typical standard vanilla fantasy fare.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Tower is not that.
Okay.
The Gunslinger will definitely take you in some different directions. And I think it's one of those things that you really have to realize, if you're going to read The Gunslinger, you're buckling in potentially for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
Because that first book is not going to be where you get all the answers you want. King didn't have all the answers he wanted when he finished that book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're in it. You got to get to book 4, even though Bill's not a big book 4 fan.
I would say it's funny. The funny thing is, a lot of the things I can point to that I didn't necessarily like in the Dark Tower series, darn if the echoes of it don't show up when I was writing West of Apocalypse.
Right. Okay.
I'm not a big fan of flashbacks, but had a few scenes where I had characters sitting around and they end up chatting about stuff that happened in the past. And I may not do it as long as he did, but it was there. Mm-hmm. It was really interesting to see how that did echo back, even though it was so different in the way I got to handle it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's one of those things that I think the biggest thing about King is, my God, that man knows how to keep you turning the page. He's also very good. I will say with the Dark Tower, I love the ending he came up with for it. I don't know how most readers feel. I know for me, I was very happy with how it ended.
There you go. You got to read all 5 books.
7.
7.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's a long haul, let me tell you. And it's fun because you realize how it overlaps his other works too. Mm-hmm. That's one of the other cool things. Part of the reason I read Salem's Lot was because of reading the Dark Tower series. Okay. There's a character who shows up from there in the book.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So let's put a spotlight on you and your work. What have you got going on right now that we're excited about? And To Hell and Back?
Now, the funny thing is, To Hell and Back actually also owes a bit of a debt to the Dark Tower series.
Perfect.
Part of the reason is because I wrote that book because I had so much fun writing West of Apocalypse.
Okay.
West of Apocalypse will never have a sequel. It's not designed to have a sequel, and any attempt to do so would ruin it. And I love the book too much to do that. But I was like, I had so much fun. I wanted to recapture that fun. I literally sat down and made a list of the things I loved about West of Apocalypse when I wrote it. Because I got like a creative high from writing that book.
Wow.
And I'm going to be chasing that high like a heroin addict the rest of my life. Which is a great problem for an author. But at the same time, I mean, that's the thing. And so it's like, I sat down and said, how can I use a lot of these, as many of these ideas as I can, to write something different and kind of recapture some of that magic. And so the idea was, what I kept going back to is, one of the things I enjoyed was all the different settings and how Aileen got to visit these different worlds by going through these portals. And I was like, it made me think of Dante's Inferno. And so I got the idea of, all right, if I'm going to write I want to write a sword fighting book, but it's going to involve sword fighters who help with exorcisms, and they go into hell on a quest for revenge. It's about a husband and wife sword fighting duo who do go to hell to kill a demon who murdered their friends and family. And they have to get the demon's head and heart out of hell within 7 days to make the death stick. And the only way to find their way out is to rely on their 15-pound terrier as a guide.
Aww.
Yeah, our little hellhound, Wicket.
Is Wicket based on a real dog?
Yes. Wicket is based almost completely on our Wicket that Sherry and I have had since, humorously enough. We got him, I think it was back in 2016. Yeah, we've had Wicket a very long time now, and Oh my, yeah, it's I even have a scene, one of the flashback scenes in that book lets you see Danny and Ty adopting Wicket,
Mhm.
and I very much borrowed from the actual adoption that Sherry and I had with him, and it was so much fun. That's my favorite chapter of the whole damn book.
Oh.
I love that scene because
Oh.
it's much like I have the main character Ty. He's very resistant to getting a dog, even though they have to have a dog to navigate hell.
Was that you?
Oh yeah,
Oh.
our dog Paige had passed away that
I'm
summer,
sorry.
and so I was the holdout in the family. Everyone else was ready to get a dog again, but I was not.
Mhm.
Sherry finally broke me down. We went to two places. We first went to the SPCA in
Mhm.
Richmond. We checked there. We looked at two dogs. Neither
Didn't
one of
work,
them
yeah.
was right.
Yeah.
And then we went to Richmond Animal League, and at that point, Wicket was named Spiegel.
Okay.
But we went there. He was the only dog not barking his full head off in the kennel, and Sherry immediately spotted him. He's like a little Benji. And
Aw.
so I was like, and the lady who was back there with us showing us around, she's like, "Do you want to get to see him?" And she's like, "All right." So she's like, "We can let you sit and go back into the room with him. We can let him walk around if you want." So we're sitting back there. She takes the leash off to let him walk around. He immediately hops into my lap,
Aw.
and I'm sitting there. I'm like,
All
"All right,
right.
yeah." Sherry snapped a picture of it. I'm even putting it in the book and
Oh.
the acknowledgments. There's a picture of when Wicket hopped into my lap. And we have always joked that the caption for that picture is that moment you weren't getting a dog, and now you are. The look on Wicket's face is completely like, all right, I'll take him.
Oh, that's so sweet,
Uh,
though. Yeah.
I
Oh.
loved having him. I mean, the book is it's a weird book because it's
Mhm.
like partly dark, but it's also got a very soft found
Mhm.
family element to it. I wanted to write a book about a husband and wife who don't struggle in their relationship.
Mhm.
I mentioned my parents were divorced.
Yeah.
I remember wearing headphones to drown out their arguments growing
Mm.
up, and I don't like stories about couples that struggle for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to write a story where you get to see a couple that's not struggling go on an epic quest because you don't
Right.
see that a lot.
Right.
And that was the story I wrote. That was the main reason for that. But it also ended up being this weird kind of love letter to dog ownership too. So
Aw.
yeah, a lot of dark stuff in it, but there's also a lot of stuff in it that is very tender.
Yeah. I love that. And can I mention that I know you're going to have a author book launch next month, right? With a fellow animal lover, right?
Yes.
Also friend of the pod.
Oh, cool. I didn't know
Oh,
that.
you didn't know that? She's
No.
been on. Yeah,
Oh my
Sarah Glenn
gosh.
Marsh. Yeah, tell us about that.
Oh my God. Sarah, God, I met her through James River Writers
Mhm.
as well. I had her on a panel I was moderating. I can't even remember what the panel was about now, but I got to read her book in her series. That the first book was Reign of the Fallen,
Mhm.
and also involved characters in a
Mhm.
medieval setting. Hers was a medieval setting ish, and they were like going into their underworld, if you will, their realm of the dead.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was definitely some crossover there. And I happened to run into her at a writing show for James River Writers recently, and I knew Fountain needed me to get someone. They'd emailed me that day going, "Hey, we need to figure out who's going to be with you on
Moderator.
the
Yeah,
panel to
yeah.
moderate talk to you." And I ran into her, and I was like, "Hey." Because she was speaking on the
Yeah.
panel, I was like, "Would you be interested in doing it?" She was like, "Yeah," and I was so
Aw.
happy because I had actually approached her to try and get a blurb, but she was on deadline for the book she's got coming out
Right, yeah, in
at that
April,
time, and
I
there was
think, yeah.
no way she had time for it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I was worried she would probably say no, but she actually was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely."
No, good, and that's coming up in January, right?
Yes, January 20th at Fountain Bookstore. I'm
Okay.
excited. I've also got an event coming up at Busky Cider.
Oh,
We're going to
okay.
hijack
Cool.
one of their trivia nights to do an event there and sell
Very
some books.
cool. Yes, I'm definitely gonna try to make the event with Sarah
Oh,
too.
sweet.
So yeah, and I was excited. I was like, "Oh, I know both of you."
She's a wonderful person and a great
Yes.
writer. I
Yeah.
love her stuff. When Rain of the Fallen came out, for example, I remember we made a trip up to Northern Virginia for her release at
Mhm.
One More Page Books. But she and I met at a local library event
Oh,
downtown.
in Richmond?
Yeah, that was where we first met. And I kind of think
Okay.
about it. Yeah.
Libraries bring everyone together,
Yep.
We really do.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Oh, gracious. Oh, yeah. I will say at the time this is coming out, coming in April 15th, I
Uh-huh.
have an audio drama that will be coming out from a company called Audio Mazes.
Okay.
And this one's a very soft story for me. It's a fantasy called The Writer's Block. It's about an author whose debut novel was a massive bestseller, but
Okay.
now she's dealing with a massive case of writer's block that's been going on for 3 years.
Okay.
And she gets a note slipped under her door. And the note simply says, if you go to this address on Carey Street, you will find the writer's block and you'll answer to your problems. She goes down there and there's 3 doors that were never there before. One goes to
Okay.
a cafe, one goes to a reading nook, and one goes to a wine bar.
Oh,
And the cool
perfect.
thing about Audio Mazes is that you get to decide which path the story is going to take.
Okay.
And so you get to decide which of the doors she'll go through. And depending on the door she goes through, she finds a different solution to her problem.
Okay.
And so it's very much a love letter to the creative process.
I love that.
It's one of the more emotional journeys I've gotten to write, and I loved writing it so much.
Mm-hmm. I think the creative process is like one of the most magical experiences you can have, for sure.
I've been writing for so long now, I don't know how to not write. My wife has even joked, I don't care if you're getting published, you've got to keep writing because you're unbearable when you're not. I am. I'm awful if I'm not working on something.
Oh. Well, wonderful. I'm excited to see, everything you're working on. And this is so fun. And thank you for coming. And
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been great. And having a dark and stormy
Yeah.
to celebrate the gunslinger, the archetype anti-hero.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for spending some time with me and my guest for an episode of Drinks in the Library. For more information about the show, you can find us on Instagram at Drinks in the Library, on the World Wide Web, drinksinthelibrary.com, or shoot me an email at drinkspod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers.